Start with the next part of our NCRT reading of the chapter Environmental Issues, Agrochemicals and Their Effects. In the wake of Green Revolution. Now, the Green Revolution was started in the 1960s by Norman Borlaug. Okay, he started this because the need for crops, the need for grains was increasing because of the increasing human population. He used inorganic fertilizers and pesticides in a lot of quantity, has increased manifold for enhancing crop production because it enhanced the crop production so that the needs can be fulfilled. But pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, etc. are being increasingly used. These incidentally are also toxic to the non-target organisms that are important components of the soil ecosystem. So these inorganic, these artificial fertilizers, pesticides, they are destroying the soil ecosystem. They are destroying the non-target organisms also, the useful ones also. So, do you think these can be biomagnified in the terrestrial ecosystem? Yes, some of the biopesticides and some of the inorganic fertilizers they can be biomagnified in the terrestrial ecosystem, as we have seen biomagnification of mercury and DDT in the aquatic ecosystems. We know that the addition of increasing amounts of chemical fertilizers can do to aquatic ecosystems. We have seen about eutrophication where the nutrients, that is the chemicals in the water, is increasing because of these fertilizers and pesticides which are given off by the agricultural runoff water. The current problems in agriculture are therefore extremely grave. Now, a case study of organic farming where everything organic was used. Integrated organic farming is a cyclic, that is, the substances can be cycled, can be reused. It's a zero waste procedure, nothing has to be put into the waste, where waste products from one process are cycled in as nutrients for other processes. This allows maximum utilization of resources and increases the efficiency of production. The credit to this goes to Ramchandra Daggar. He is a farmer from Sonipat, Haryana. Important MCQ. Organic farming का example दिया है रामचंद्र डग्गर ने, who is a farmer from Sonipat from Haryana. He includes beekeeping, dairy management, water harvesting, composting, and agriculture in a chain of processes. So it's all cyclic. एक का waste product दूसरे में use होता है and दूसरे का waste product तीसरे में use होता है. Which support each other and allow an extremely economical and sustainable venture. There is no need to use chemical fertilizers for crops as cattle excreta, that is the dung, is used as a manure. Crop waste is used to create compost, which can be used as a natural fertilizer or can be used to generate natural gas for satisfying the energy needs of the farm. Enthusiastic about spreading information and help on the practice of integrated organic farming, Duggar has created the Haryana Kisan Welfare Club. Important MCQ: who has created the Haryana Kisan Welfare Club? It was created by Ramesh Chandra Duggar with a current membership of about 5,000 farmers. Important MCQ: how many farmers are there in this club? And they are working on this cyclic zero waste procedure, that is integrated organic farming. Next, let us come to radioactive waste. Initially, nuclear energy was hailed as a non polluting way for generating electricity. Initially, we thought that nuclear energy is a non polluting way for generating electricity. But later on, it was realized that the use of nuclear energy has two very serious inherent problems. Important MCQ: use of nuclear energy has two serious problems. फर्स्ट इज एक्सीडेंटल लीकेज, अगर कहीं पे एक्सीडेंटली न्यूक्लियर पावर प्लांट में से लीक हो गई न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी, विच हैज़ अकर्ड इन 3 Mile Island एंड चर्नोबिल इंसिडेंट्स. सो 3 Mile Island के साथ यू हैव टू रिमेंबर द 3 Mile Island. The incidents of leakage from this nuclear power plant took place in March 28 in 1979. And this 3 Mile Island is located in Pennsylvania. Okay, so this is again an important MCQ. 3 Mile Island, TMI also it is written as Pennsylvania, you have to remember. 1979 you have to remember, and nuclear power plant. This is the incidence of accidental leakage of nuclear energy from this nuclear power plant, which had very serious problems. Then second is the Chernobyl incidents, which is the Chernobyl disaster from Chernobyl nuclear power plant located in Ukraine on 26th of April in 1986. So you have to remember the location of these plants and you have to remember the year. And the second is safe disposable of radioactive waste. Means one is the problem of accidental leakage, and the second problem is how we are going to dispose these radioactive wastes. Radiation that is given off by nuclear waste is extremely damaging to organisms because it causes mutations at a very high rate. Important MCQ. This radiation, it causes mutations very fast at a very high rate. At high doses, nuclear radiation is lethal, that is, it will actually kill the organism. But at lower doses, it creates various disorders, the most frequent of all being cancer. Important MCQ. High doses पे nuclear radiation lethal रहेगा, low doses पर it is going to create various disorders, and the most frequent disorder is of it creating cancer. Therefore, nuclear waste is an extremely potent pollutant and has to be dealt with utmost caution. Because of these two serious effects, the use of nuclear energy as a non polluting way for generating electricity, this statement has now become false, which was initially thought to be true. It has been recommended that storage of nuclear waste after sufficient pre-treatment should be done in suitably shielded containers buried within the rocks. That is, we are going to treat this nuclear waste and we are going to shift it in big containers which will be shielded with layers of things, and these containers will be buried within the rocks about 500 meters deep below the earth's surface. However, this method of disposal is meeting stiff opposition from public. Why do you think is people opposing this? Because of our future generations. We do not know that this radioactive material is absolutely safe, and we are going on disposing it in the earth's surface, in the rocks. Okay, so, our future generations might be at risk from this radioactive material, hence, the public is strongly disagreeing this form of disposal of the radioactive waste. Next, let us come to greenhouse effect and global warming. The term greenhouse effect has been derived from a phenomenon that occurs in a greenhouse. I know you all must have seen a greenhouse. It looks like a small glass house and is used for growing plants, especially during winter, because greenhouse के अंदर temperature control कर सकते हैं. In a greenhouse, the glass panel lets the light in but does not allow heat to escape, thus creating a heated environment inside. This happens for a car also that has been parked in the sun for a few hours. So the greenhouse is going to actually warm up from inside, and it's going to maintain a good warm temperature inside in the winters also. You can use it for growing plants which require this warm temperature. The greenhouse effect is a naturally occurring phenomenon that is responsible for heating of the earth's surface and atmosphere. So ये similar effect जो earth के temperature को warm रखता है is called the greenhouse effect. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon. You would be surprised to know that without greenhouse effect, the average temperature at surface of the earth would have been chilly of minus 18 degrees centigrades. Important MCQ. Had it not been for the greenhouse gases, temperature minus 18 degrees centigrade रहता था rather than the present average of 15 degrees centigrade. So it is actually helping us maintain this warmer temperature of around 30 degrees centigrade. ये 15 and ये 18. Alright, in order to understand the greenhouse effect, it is necessary to know the fate of energy of sunlight that reaches the outermost atmosphere. We have done this in the lecture. The energy which is coming from the sunlight, which is reaching the outermost atmosphere, पहले तो clouds and gases reflect करेंगे 1/4 of it. About 1/4 of it will be reflected and absorb some of it, but almost half of the incoming solar radiation falls on the earth's surface, heating it. So half of it is going to fall on the earth's surface, and again some of it is going to go back. 1/4 of it is going to reflect back by the clouds and gases over here, but half of it is reaching the earth's surface. Important MCQ. Earth's surface is again going to re-emit it in the form of long infrared radiation. Earth ka surface is going to re-emit this energy from the sun, but part of it does not escape into the space as atmospheric gases, that is carbon dioxide, methane, etc., observe a major fraction of it. Now, when this earth is emitting the radiation back, all of it is not radiated back into the space. Some of it is trapped by the atmospheric gases which absorb it, and thus they help to keep the temperature of the earth warm. The molecules of these gases radiate heat energy, and a major part of which again comes to the Earth's surface, thus heating it up again. This cycle is repeated many times. The above mentioned gases, carbon dioxide and methane, are commonly known as greenhouse gases. These are the principal greenhouse gases because they are responsible for the greenhouse effect. Important MCQ: principal greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide and methane, whereas other greenhouse gases include nitrous oxide and chlorofluorocarbons, that is the CFCs. So this is the composition of the greenhouse gases. So 60% of it is carbon dioxide, 20% methane, then 14% CFCs and 6% nitrous oxides. Again, important MCQ with all these four gases as the greenhouse gases. Increase in the level of greenhouse gases. Now, greenhouse gases are important, but if their concentration increases too much in the atmosphere, it's going to heat up the Earth's surface a lot, which is not advantageous to us in the long run. We do not want the concentration of the greenhouse gases to increase. Increase in the level of greenhouse gases has led to a considerable heating of the earth, leading to a phenomenon called global warming. Globally, all over the world, on this sphere, it is getting warmed. Okay, temperature is increasing. During the past century, the temperature of the earth has increased by 0.6 degrees centigrade, most of it during the last 3 decades. So 3 decades means a period of 30 years. In these last 30 years, the temperature has increased by 0.6 degree centigrade, means ये hotter हुआ है. Alright, so this should not happen. Scientists believe that this rise in temperature is leading to deleterious changes in the environment and resulting in odd climatic conditions. The El Nino effect is one of the examples, thus leading to increased melting of polar ice caps as well as of other places like the Himalayan snow caps. So the ice is melting. Over the years, it is going to give a rise in the coastal areas in the sea level, and the coastal areas will get submerged. The total spectrum of changes that global warming can bring about is a subject that is still under active research. How can we control global warming? The measures include cutting down use of fossil fuels. ये सब जो greenhouse gases हैं उनका emission we will have to control and we will have to reduce in the atmosphere. Improving efficiency of energy usage, reducing deforestation, planting trees and slowing down the growth of human population. All these are important measures which will help us control global warming, and international initiatives are also being taken to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. These international initiatives are one by the Earth Summit in 1992 held at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which was also speaking of the conservation of biodiversity. This also takes care of reduction of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And the second is the Kyoto Protocol in Japan in 1997, which also focuses on reduction of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So you have to remember these two protocols with the reduction of the greenhouse gases. These are the international initiatives which are working on the reduction of emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The Kyoto Protocol and the Earth Summit, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, for your MCQs. Next, ozone depletion in the stratosphere. You have earlier studied in the chemistry textbook of class 11th about bad ozone. Okay, bad ozone is present in the lower atmosphere. अब atmosphere की layers रहती है. So the immediate atmosphere which is immediately surrounding the earth is troposphere. Troposphere के ऊपर होता है stratosphere. So in the lower atmosphere, that is the troposphere, is bad ozone. BT, boys are tall, girls are short. You will remember it that ways. BT is bad ozone in the troposphere. GS, girls are short, is good ozone in the stratosphere. So there is good ozone also. This ozone is found in the upper part of the atmosphere called the stratosphere, and it acts as a shield absorbing the ultraviolet radiation from the sun. So ultraviolet radiations which come from the sun, some part of it is very deleterious to us, that is the UVB rays. UVA and UVC are not harmful, but UVB rays are very much harmful. So this ozone layer protects us from these UVB rays. Important MCQ: UV rays are highly injurious to living organisms since DNA and proteins of living organisms preferentially absorb the UV rays, and its high energy breaks the chemical bonds within these molecules. The thickness of the ozone in the column of air from the ground to the top of the atmosphere is measured in Dobson units. Important MCQ. Ozone की जो thickness है on the complete earth surface, on this complete surface, it is measured in Dobson units from the surface to the atmosphere. Whatever layer of ozone is present, it is measured in terms of Dobson unit. So here in this purple color, ozone hole is shown. Ozone hole is nothing but thinning of the ozone layer on the atmosphere at that particular part of the planet. So it is shown above Antarctica, which is shown in purple color, where the ozone layer is the thinnest. Okay, and it is measured in Dobson unit. And ozone hole over Antarctica develops each year between late August and early October. So this late August and early October is an important MCQ. That means the period of September. Now we have seen in the lecture that ozone hole is seasonal. Because the earth is revolving around the sun, it is rotating around its own axis. This thinning of the ozone layer will differ in different places of the planet seasonally. Okay, so this ozone hole, which is the thinning of the ozone layer in the atmosphere, is going to actually differ. It's going to be seasonal. Ozone gas is continuously formed by the action of UV rays. Now ozone is actually formed also by the action of UV rays on molecular oxygen. हमने ये reaction देखा है, जब molecular oxygen combine करता है atomic oxygen के साथ, you get ozone, and it is also degraded into molecular oxygen in the stratosphere again by the UV rays. So this balance between making and breaking of ozone should be maintained. There should be a balance between production and degradation of ozone in the stratosphere. Of late, the balance has been disrupted due to enhancement of ozone degradation by the chlorofluorocarbons. अब ओजोन का डिग्रेडेशन हो रहा है क्लोरोफ्लोरोकार्बन से, which is used widely in our refrigerators, in our air conditions, in our aerosols. CFCs discharged in the lower part of the atmosphere, that is in the troposphere, move upward and reach the stratosphere. In the stratosphere, UV rays act on them, releasing chlorine atoms. ये जो क्लोरीन एटम्स रिलीज होते हैं, they degrade ozone, releasing molecular oxygen. With these atoms acting merely as catalysts, chlorine atoms are not consumed in the reaction. These chlorine atoms, they have a very high resident time. They remain in the atmosphere for around 60 to 100 years. So one CFC which is being released into the lower atmosphere, it is going into the stratosphere, it's going to remain there as a catalyst which is going to break ozone for around 60 to 100 years. It has a very high resident time. Hence, whatever CFCs are added to the stratosphere, they have permanent and continuing effects on ozone. Although ozone depletion is occurring widely in the stratosphere, the depletion is marked particularly over the Antarctic region. This is what we have seen as the ozone hole. This has resulted in the formation of a large area of thinned ozone layer, commonly called as ozone hole, on the Antarctic region. Now, UV radiation of wavelengths shorter than UVB are almost completely absorbed by the Earth's atmosphere, given that the ozone layer is intact. But UVB damages DNA and mutation may occur. It causes aging of the skin, damage to skin cells, and various types of skin cancers. This is why UVB is dangerous. In human eye, cornea absorbs UVB radiation, and a high dose of UVB causes inflammation of the cornea, called snow blindness, cataract, etc. Important MCQs. Such exposure may also permanently damage the cornea. Hence, this shielding effect of the ozone against this UVB rays is very important for human beings. Recognizing the deleterious effects of ozone depletion, an international treaty known as the Montreal Protocol was signed at Montreal in Canada in 1987, important MCQ, and it was effective in 1989, important MCQ. So the Montreal Protocol was signed in Canada in Montreal in 1987, but it was effective since 1989 to control the emission of ozone depleting substances. अब ozone को जो substances deplete कर रहे हैं stratosphere से, we have to control the emission of these ODs, that is the ozone depleting substances. Subsequently, many more efforts have been made and protocols have laid down definite roadmaps separately for developed and developing countries for reducing the emission of CFCs and other ozone depleting chemicals. Let us see degradation by improper resource utilization and maintenance. That is, we are not utilizing our resources properly and not maintaining it so that we have their benefits in the long run. The degradation of natural resources can occur not just by the action of pollutants but also by the improper resource utilization practices. One of it is soil erosion and desertification. The development of fertile topsoil takes centuries. It takes around hundreds of years to have good fertile topsoil which is going to give us a good crop yield. But it can be removed very easily due to human activities like overcultivation, unrestricted grazing, deforestation, and poor irrigation practices, resulting in arid patches of land. Arid means desert patches of land where there is no cultivation. When large barren patches extend and meet over time, a desert is created. ऐसे छोटे छोटे arid patches which don't have a good fertile soil, which when they meet over time, a large desert is created in that area where there is no fertile soil for cultivation. Internationally, it has been recognized that desertification is a major problem nowadays, particularly due to increased urbanization. So जैसे जैसे urbanization increase होता जा रहा है, life in the cities is going on increasing, desertification is becoming a major problem. Waterlogging and soil salinity. Irrigation without proper drainage of water. Now, when we are doing agriculture, we have to manage the water also. So, if we are irrigating without proper drainage of water, it will lead to waterlogging in the soil. हमारा land ही waterlogged हो जाएगा. So, the soil over there will become waterlogged. So, it is definitely going to affect the crops. Besides affecting the crops, waterlogging is going to draw salts to the surface of the soil. ऊपर के जो सॉल्ट्स हैं वो जाके रिसाइड हो जाएंगे सरफेस पे. The salt then is deposited as a thin crust on the land surface or starts collecting at the roots of the plants. This increased salt content is inimical, it is unfriendly to the growth of crops and is extremely damaging to agriculture. Waterlogging and soil salinity are some of the problems that have come in the wake of green revolution when we actually started that we have to increase the crop yield. हमने बहुत ज़्यादा waterlogging, soil salinity, we started using chemical fertilizers, pesticides, all this in the wake of green revolution. Next is deforestation. Deforestation, by the word itself, it is the conversion of forested area to non-forested area. फॉरेस्ट को हम कट कर रहे हैं उसको हम बोलते हैं डिफॉरेस्टेशन. अकॉर्डिंग टू एन एस्टिमेट ऑलमोस्ट 40% फॉरेस्ट हैव बीन लॉस्ट इन द ट्रॉपिक्स, जो ट्रॉपिकल एरिया है. ओके, नाउ यू नो विच इज़ द ट्रॉपिकल एरिया. So 40% forests have been lost in the tropics because of deforestation, important MCQ, compared to only 1% in the temperate region, important MCQ. Tropics को हमने ज़्यादा exploit किया है. So 40% forest cut हो गया है tropics से. The present scenario of deforestation is particularly grim in India, so we have to take care. At the beginning of the 20th century के beginning में forest cover was about 30% of the land in India, important MCQ. By the end of this century, it has shrunk to 21.54%. So almost 8%, only 8% is remaining. 8% is shrunk. From 30, we have come to 21.54% by the end of this century. Whereas the National Forest Policy in 1988 of India, important MCQ, National Forest Policy of India 1988, has recommended 33% forest cover for the plains. That is the plain regions which are not hilly. They should have at least 33% of forest cover, and the hills should have at least 67% of the forest cover. So how does deforestation actually occur? It is again because of number of human activities they are contributing to it. One of the major reasons is the conversion of forest to agricultural land so that the uh, feeding purpose is solved. Okay, we can feed the growing human population. For feeding the growing human population, we need to do a lot of agriculture. So trees are also axed for timber, firewood, cattle ranching, and for several other purposes, for our several other needs. Slash and burn agriculture, commonly called as zoom cultivation, occurs in northeastern states of India. Important MCQ. Slash and burn agriculture या zoom cultivation कहाँ पे होता है? It is seen in the northeastern states of India. Has also contributed to deforestation. In slash and burn agriculture, the farmers cut down the trees of the forest and burn the plant remains. The ash which is produced by burning the trees and by burning the plant remains, this ash is used as a fertilizer, and the land is then used for farming or cattle grazing. So this type of agriculture is slash and burn agriculture, where the farmer is cutting down the trees, he is doing deforestation and then burning the plant remains. After cultivation, the area is left for several years so as to allow for its recovery. The farmer then moves on to other areas and repeats the process of slash and burn. In earlier days, when zoom cultivation was in prevalence, enough time gap was given so that the land recovered from the effect of cultivation. So land recovery को पहले बहुत time दिया जाता था, but now with the increasing population, this time has reduced, thus again resulting in deforestation, again resulting in arid patches and resulting in desertification of the land. What are the consequences of deforestation? One of the major effects is enhanced carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere. Because अगर trees नहीं रहेगी, concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is going to increase, which is a greenhouse gas. So we don't want these greenhouse gases to increase in more concentrations. Okay, deforestation also causes loss of biodiversity due to habitat destruction. हमारी diversity loss हो रही है, biodiversity loss हो रहा है. Disturbs the hydrologic cycle, that is the transportation of water in the earth and the atmosphere. This water cycle is getting disturbed. It causes soil erosion and may lead to desertification in extreme cases. इसका only method to solve all these problems is reforestation. Reforestation is the process of restoring a forest that once existed but was removed at some point of time in the past. Reforestation naturally भी हो सकता है, but naturally it will take a lot of time. We can speed it up by planting trees with due consideration to biodiversity that earlier existed in that area. So same habitat provide कर सकते हैं हम by planting the similar kind of trees, giving consideration to the biodiversity that existed in that particular area. A very interesting case study on deforestation comes from people's participation in conservation of forests. People's participation has a long history in India. In 1731, King of Jodhpur in Rajasthan, important MCQ, asked one of his ministers to arrange wood. Why did the king want wood? He wanted wood to construct his new palace, important MCQ. Ministers and workers went to a forest near a village inhabited by Bishnois to cut down the trees. Bishnois is a community in the north part of India. The Bishnoi community is known for its peaceful coexistence with nature. The effort to cut down trees by the kings was throttled by the Bishnois. They absolutely rebelled, they absolutely opposed cutting down of trees in that area. A Bishnoi woman, Amrita Devi, showed exemplary courage by hugging a tree. She went and hugged the tree, and daring king's men to cut her first before cutting the tree. But the tree mattered much more to her than her own life. Sadly, the king's men did not heed to her pleas and cut down the tree along with Amrita Devi. Her three daughters and hundreds of other Bishnois followed her and thus lost their lives saving trees. Nowhere in the history do we find a commitment of this magnitude when human beings have sacrificed their lives for the cause of the environment. Seeing this sacrifice, the Government of India has recently instituted the Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award for individuals or communities from rural areas that have shown such kind of extraordinary courage and dedication in protecting the wildlife. You may have also heard about the Chipko movement of the Garhwal Himalayas in the Uttarakhand. In 1974, local women showed enormous bravery in protecting trees from the acts of contractors by hugging them again. It is called Chipko movement. People all over the world have acclaimed the Chipko movement. With the Chipko movement, you also have to remember the names of Chandi Prasad Bhatt from Gopeshwar and Sundar Lal Bahugana from Silyara. They were the major leaders of Chipko movement at these places in the north. So Chandi Prasad Bhatt in Gopeshwar and Sundar Lal Bahugana in Silyara for your important MCQs. Realizing the significance of participation of by local communities. Okay, before this, let me also tell you the opposite of the Chipko movement. Not the opposite, actually, it is the same movement which was done for the protection of forests, was the Apiko movement, which was seen in the south. Chipko movement was mainly in North India. Apiko movement was in South India, mainly in Karnataka, and Pandurang Hegde. He was the leader of this Apiko movement, which was again for the protection of our forests and our wildlife. So you have to remember this Apiko movement in the south part of India and Pandurang Hegde being its leader. Now, realizing the significance of participation by local communities, Government of India in 1980 important MCQ has introduced the concept of joint forest management. So, joint forest management, this concept was introduced by Government of India in 1980s, important MCQ. So, has to work closely with the local communities for protecting and managing forests. In return for the services to the forest, the communities get benefit of various forest products such as fruits, gum, rubber, medicine, etc. etc. And thus the forest can be conserved in a suitable manner, sustainable manner. So the government is now working with these local communities who are very much dedicated to protect their environment and to protect the forests in their local community. This is called joint forest management. Now you also have to remember for your MCQs about NEERI. NEERI is the National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, which is doing a lot of work on environment protection, and it is situated in Nagpur. So NEERI के साथ Nagpur MCQs you have to match the following, and also the full form, that is National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, which is doing a lot of work on environment protection. Right, so here we come to the end of this chapter, that is environmental issues.